they're like my family. I feel like I become a family member to them.
Yeah.
Like we get to know each other on a personal level.
Yeah.
But then more importantly, I feel like I am helping them build a business.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be their livelihood.
Yeah.
This is how they're going to pay their bills. This is how they're going to feel successful. And I get to be a part of that. Even though it's a very small niche, I don't care.
Welcome to the I Fired My Boss franchise podcast. My name's Dan Claps, founder and CEO of Franchise Playbook, a franchisor platform where we create, own, and operate dynamic franchise brands in the mobile services space. And my life's goal is to help people just like you fire their boss and become a business owner.
And I'm Christian Dadulak, top franchise consultant and co-founder of Real Franchising, a leading franchise consulting firm. And together, we're on a mission to help people fire their boss, hire themselves, and live the American dream through franchise ownership.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the I Fired My Boss podcast with your co-host, Dan Claps here. And I've got a special guest, a member of the Voda team, Jackie. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. Jacqueline, as you call me.
Jacqueline, Justin.
Jesalyn.
Has your whole life people messed up your name?
Yes, pretty much. They actually call me Jocelyn. So it's very close to Jesalyn, but everyone calls me Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Yeah, but it's not my name.
Yeah.
No.
That's not my name.
That's not That's not my name. Mm-mm.
Well, excited to have you on here. We're at our Discovery Day in Madison, Wisconsin right now, and you're actually located here, right?
Yeah, whoop, whoop. Go UW Madison. Yes. I was born and raised in Wisconsin. So, yep, true Wisconsinite.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did you get started with Voda? Like, how did you end up working here as an onboarding specialist? That's
a really good question. I actually was talking to my other boss, Zach, as you really well know. And we were just talking about this. Like, I don't know how I came across. It was literally on Indeed, which I don't really go on Indeed to find jobs. Usually I get through networking because I've been in the fitness industry for a really long time. So I was a nutrition coach, a fitness coach for like 20 years. And it's not very, I would say, consistent with work. So I was trying to I just wanted something new and exciting. And I was just doing some searching and it was weird. It had like 3 titles in Indeed where I'm like, okay, I can do that title. And I don't know what that title is. And the other one, I'm like, that doesn't sound too hard. And I read the description and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I got all those qualities. And when I applied, I didn't really know what I was applying for. So I just I think because the fact that I'm a very people person and also being in the fitness industry and a coach, I just, I know how to pretty much communicate really well with others, you know? And so it said a lot in there in that job. And when Zach called me, we just had this like really, really cool, chill conversation. When I told him that I was a coach and all that, and he was like, well, why are you doing this? And I was like I said, I really want to try something new and exciting. I want to grow with somebody. And then when Zach was telling me all about Voda and where it came from, it was just even, I don't know. I guess you can say I was just like, well, that's new. I've never done anything like that before.
Yeah.
But it's like coaching though, because I'm like an onboarding specialist and I got to bring them in. Well, when they come in, I got to get them excited because they're nervous. You know, they just bought a franchise and they spent all this money and now they're like, oh God, what do I do? You know, what's the next steps? And I got to keep them excited and on the roll. So it's kind of like a coaching position in my field. So I think that's why I applied to Voda. I mean, I think that's why I got the job at Voda is because of my coaching ability.
Yeah. No, you do a great job. And you know, it's interesting. Like, you know, obviously if you're listening, I'm from New Jersey. I live in New York City and split my time between there and Florida. And when I tell people that my headquarters is in Madison, Wisconsin, they always like scratch their head. And, you know, Zach and I had this vision to build a team out here. And I'm just so excited because you were and are our first hire out here in Wisconsin. Now we have more. But it's just, you know, I actually think there's a real truth to the Midwest work ethic.
True that. I lived in South Carolina, so I definitely agree with that.
People here just work hard, like super just passionate. And, you know, I find that in you, it's so cool to me to have come from non-franchising, but just take that coaching background. So walk me through like, so someone joins Voda, they go through their welcome call and onboarding call with the leadership team and yourself. Walk me through like the process that they go from there.
Yeah, it's a good question. So like I said, like, they're excited. First thing when you get the welcome call, it's very exciting, and they're nervous. So my job as an onboarding specialist is to keep them organized, keep them on task, because they have a to-do list, and I do give them a to-do list. So they meet with me pretty much anytime they need me, but on a weekly basis. And we go through the whole process of just, what they got to start with, like getting introduced to all their vendors. And then, it's like a slow process. It's not anything rushed because we don't want to throw it all out of them. And they're like they always say this comment, I'm drinking from a fire hose, Jesalyn, because they just feel like they have so much coming at them. But my job is to be like, I get that. And we are probably sometimes feel that way. And that's totally understandable. But there is a method to all this chaos behind us. And like, we actually have a process behind there. And that's what I'm here for, is to kind of keep them on task, get them rolling in, with all the business behind the scenes, such as payroll, to getting them set up on their insurance and getting their van and all those things. So that's just what they see in the first 90 days is just basic communication with me. Bless you.
Thank you.
It's that dry air.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, so they just have 90 days of just, like I said, just meeting with me, Zach, and we just kind of get them prepared for training. And that's the most exciting part, is getting them in for training, because they're going to be trained on how to be a carpet cleaner, water restoration, all of it, upholstery, pretty much doing everything on the job.
Yeah.
For that week training.
It's so interesting because I think you hit it spot on. Like if you're listening to this podcast, maybe you're looking at Voda, maybe you're another franchise, but when you buy a franchise, a lot of your like stress goes away, right? You made the decision, you signed, you committed, you connected, and you're ready to go. But then fear sets in. And I feel like so much of your role is just keeping people motivated through that fear stage, because as a franchise owner, there's a great book called The Franchisee Factor. I'm a huge believer in it. I'm going to start buying it for people and giving it to them, although it's not cheap online for some reason. But anyway, this book, I like to tell people because it's so true. Every one of our franchise owners goes through these steps and these stages, and everyone has different time that they stay in each stage. But this author put it together in a kind of a rhyme, and I'm going to walk you through them. So stage one, when someone buys a franchise, no matter who it is over the past 100 years, whatever franchise, food, fitness, whatever, everyone goes through the same feelings. And step one is they go through what's called the Glee stage. They're super happy.
Yep.
And
that's the welcome call.
That's the welcome call. And they're like, this is the best thing ever. I'm going to be amazing. This is the greatest thing, Glee and happy. And you get them originally in that stage. But as they're going, as anyone's going through the stages as a business owner, as a franchise owner, after the Glee stage, as reality sets in and they see money coming out of their bank account in those first few months, they go through the fee stage. It's like, oh man, there's all these expenses and fees and like, where's the money, right?
Yeah.
And then they start to see success a couple of months in and the business starting to take flight. And unfortunately, every person, for whatever reason, goes through what's called the me stage.
Yeah.
I'm doing it all. This is great. But what are you guys doing? It's like, we're doing a lot. We've been doing a lot. But for some reason, a franchise owner goes through the me. It's all me stage. Then they move on to the free stage. And the free stage is like, hey, like, you know what? Like, why don't we start painting houses too? Like I had a customer, they wanted me to paint. And you're like, no, we're a restoration business. And they're like, no, you don't know. Like, I know. Set me free. Stop trying to restrict me. Like, I'm going to paint. And you're like, no, we can't do that. And then after some time and some more maturity in the business, they learn that maybe that wasn't a great idea, the painting. I see now why you guys are doing this, or I see now why you have that call center or this or that. And they go through what's called the C stage. I see now why you guys were pushing that. And then finally they go through what's called the we stage, which is the best stage, which is the realization that this is truly a partnership. We are there to work together. And the more franchise owners and the franchisor work together, the better they do. But it's so interesting because you're taking people through the Glee, and the fee stage before they get to the me stage. Then I feel like at that point they start working with their success coach.
Yep, that's true.
But I'm sure you deal with that too.
Well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, like when you said the team thing, where at the end when you're we stage, I feel like there's a part of it a little bit dipped into even when I start with them, because they start getting introduced to other franchise partners that are in other locations, and they start to see the communication within Voda, like not just with corporate, but with other franchise partners. And then they get to know them, and then they're feeding off what they're doing. And it just becomes this like brotherhood or sisterhood, because there is a female up in there who's actually a rock star. She's one of them. That's Amanda Shepherd. She's just amazing. And she's actually that one that actually really pushed that. She's like, I want to talk to these guys. I really want to see what they're doing. What are they paying their GM? Are they getting a truck for them? Or, what are they doing for this and that? And those questions sometimes people are afraid to ask. Like, are we allowed to ask those questions? Like, shouldn't we know that? Like, no, man, this is a team effort. So
one of the things about those channels that I love is, this idea of radical candor, radical transparency. So like, it's interesting. I always tell people like there's different channels for different things. And we have channels dedicated to just like, I feel like they're just dedicated to like venting.
Yes.
And it's like, sometimes I'll see things that I don't necessarily agree with from franchise owners, but I'm very intentional with that's not my place to say something. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about getting into a Voda, one of the things I always explain is my job is as a franchisor, as the leader in the organization, is to provide entrepreneurs a platform to run their own business.
Yeah.
And people forget that it's still their own business. And as we're going to hopefully build enough trust and relationship and proof on why doing it our way, the Voda way, is the way to do it, within reason, there is flexibility.
Yeah.
It's still your own business.
Well, when they're venting, it's almost in a way, it's like they learn from their way of venting. Like in the coaching in general, it's like you almost talk out loud. You start to answer your own questions. So that's like really huge. And so there is that flexibility where they're actually learning from each other and just speaking up. And then you guys give that flexibility and that opportunity to speak up. Because if you don't speak up, you're never going to learn. You're never going to know.
So true. Yeah. Like doing this content, like, you learn from your own content by just talking. So what do you see? Like, I guess my question would be, I feel like you're very passionate about what you do. What's driving that? Like, why do you love onboarding franchise owners, Voda, working with Zach? Like, what's kind of the driver there?
It puts a really big smile on my face when you say that, because this has probably been like I have been a heart, like I said, fitness for a long time, and thought that was my passion. And I'm just like, it's crazy to think that I'm in something different.
Yeah.
And I'm more passionate about that to the point where I actually wake up in the morning and I can't wait to get to work.
Wow.
Like is
that why you get up at 4 a.m.?
Yeah. Because I don't want to be late. Sometimes I even catch myself like before I start my workout, I'm like, I'm going to check my emails real quick to see that. But anyway.
Big mistake.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to stay away from that. Boundaries. But no, really, there is so much involved, like why I love my job, but the one is definitely who I work with, absolutely 100%, because there's definitely a team feel where it's not like, well, he's my boss and I can't ask him a question. I've worked in companies where you just do not want to ask a question because you feel like you don't matter. Like your opinion and your thought process is not valued. This is what I say, you do it, shut up, But it's not like that. And that makes me feel like I'm a part of something. And that's the other thing too. It's like you guys are growing and I feel like I'm a part of that success. And I've never felt that before. I've never been a part of a business where as it's growing, I'm growing and I'm helping it grow. But then the other part is the franchisees. I just love them.
Yeah.
They're like I don't want to say kids because they're not. Because they're like my family. I feel like I become a family member to them.
Yeah.
Where I am like, we get to know each other on a personal level.
Yeah.
But then more importantly, I feel like I am helping them build a business.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be their livelihood.
Yeah.
This is how they're going to pay their bills. This is how they're going to feel successful. And I get to be a part of that. Even though it's a very small niche, I don't care.
No, you know what's crazy? Like it's not a small niche. It's a huge part of their business. You're Voda for them. When they first sign, like you are Voda. You're their first, or not their first point of contact, but a big pivotal part of the relationship. But, I like to think about not only are we changing someone's life trajectory as a business owner, but then it's like, there's going to be like a GM and even a technician that works there that in their life will say, well, I went to Voda, like 10 years later, they're like one of the things, it's interesting. Someone I look up to is this guy named Charlie Chase, and he's a franchising legend. He's built some iconic franchise brands. And one of the things that I've learned is his leadership has inspired so many other leaders. Like there's so many franchisors that have become franchisors after being franchise owners in his systems. And like, to me, that's amazing, right? Like, it's like the PayPal mafia. Yeah. You know what the PayPal mafia is?
No, but it sounds, I don't know, it sounds pretty hardcore.
Well, the PayPal mafia is basically like, I'm not going to be exactly accurate here, but like the founder of LinkedIn, the founder of YouTube, I believe, Elon Musk, right? With like SpaceX and Tesla, and a few others, all were from PayPal.
Oh.
Like founding early Peter Thiel, who's a big investor in Facebook. All these people, like they learned something. A bunch of smart people got together. They learned something that is so powerful that they were able to go out and all individually start their own things. And so like for me, like I hope that when I'm, in my 70s, I can look back and say like I had this technician that came to Voda, learned the leadership development programs that we have in place, and went on to start his own, business or franchise or even franchisor. And like, that's so crazy that starts with you.
Yeah.
And who knows where it can go.
Yeah. It feels good.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. It really is cool. It makes you just motivated to keep doing it.
Yeah.
For sure. That's really deep.
That was deep. Yeah.
That was deep.
Yeah. We got the camera there.
If you'd like our help investing in a franchise at no cost to you, head over to ifiredmybosspodcast.com and fill out the form to schedule a free consultation.
What do you think franchise owners' biggest aha moment is a few months into working with us and with you? Like, what do you think the biggest thing that they're like, oh, this is starting to click, or like,
That's a really good question. It all depends on the person. There's so many different personalities. That's another thing I liked about this is that you're getting so many different types of people from different industries coming into this, wanting to start this. So really it comes from that mindset too, like who is going to have that aha moment. And it all varies on when. Some are still not there, and that's okay because they're not figuring it out yet, or they're going through their own journey. And that's the other thing, everyone has their own journey. But I guess the biggest ones that I see maybe is like right after training is done.
Yeah.
Like how real this is going to be. I think they kind of like look at it like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I think they go into it like, I'm not going to touch a thing, or I'm not going to do this. I'm going to hire everybody. But then when they get into that part where they're actually doing it and they actually experience it, and we go through the whole week of training with them and, discussing everything and anything, and then also doing the hands-on stuff where they're actually cleaning the carpets and figuring out the equipment. I see a lot of them just have this like, it's a different energy. It's more like, oh my God, I can't wait to start. And they really, that's where I notice that when they leave, they're like, I can't wait to start. Like, I wish I could start sooner.
Yeah.
But I have to wait for this, or I have to wait for that.
Yeah.
I can see they're just hungry after that. I think that's what I see for the aha, if any aha moments during that time.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They get passionate. I feel like we've had a lot of franchise owners that bought a Voda with a job and then said,
oh my God,
no more job for me.
Yeah. That's a great one. Because we had one that really actually talked to himself about this, because I was a little worried about him. As we were talking.
Because he was talking to himself?
No. Yeah, that too. I actually helped him that he talked to himself. But he talked to other people too. He got some advice. But he had a job. He has a full-time job.
Yeah.
And he invested in this.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not going to be leaving my job anytime soon. I'm going to like maybe do, some stuff 5-10 hours a week, but I'm going to hire the ops manager. I'm going to get a business development. I'm going to get a sales. I'm going to do but I don't want to spend too much. He was like, I could tell he did not want to let go of what he was so used to, that safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like
safety net. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was really hard for him. But I said, if you're going to not work, if you're not going to be in it, which is fine. Hey, I mean, that's what you're going to do. You're going to have to hire people to do it for you. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. And I don't think he liked hearing that because it's like money is involved in that. And then all of a sudden we scheduled a meeting. He scheduled it with Zach. And then the whole idea of that changed. I don't know what he had an aha moment, obviously. Like, I obviously cannot work a full-time job and be Voda full-time. And Voda's not going to be successful if I'm not in it 100%.
Well, I think like something to be very clear on is like, it's like one or the other. Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like to make sure that's super crystal clear, you can either, because I haven't formulated which one I like better. I love some of our franchise owners that have jobs as long as the job is flexible. Like if you have a job where you literally can't leave your meetings and your Zoom calls.
I think that's what his job was like.
Yeah. That's something where you have to have a team.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you're going to have a job and you're having money, especially jobs that make great money and you don't have to worry about money, I think that's not a bad thing if you're hungry to make the business work.
Yeah.
You do have to have pain that you're motivated to make it work. But like every business in home services needs these people. And I don't care what anyone says, this is how it works. It's how every business works on the planet. Most businesses, they need a GM, like an operations person, a sales person, a marketing person, an administrative person, legal and finance.
Yep.
Now, as a franchise, a lot of the marketing, or really all of the marketing, like you don't need a marketing person on your team because we have that. You don't need the legal is like a small thing. You can outsource that. You need bookkeeping and financial. We've got a lot of the bookkeeping covered. You need an accountant. That's like an outsourced thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what you need on your team is you need a GM, technicians, admin, and sales.
Yeah.
And forget about like an individual. It's about the org chart. Now, if you want to be the salesperson, then go be the salesperson. Or if you want to be the general manager or the admin, but those buckets have to be filled.
Mm-hmm.
And I find like whenever, like as we've grown as a system and learned, I always remind people when they're looking at Voda, who's going to do sales? Oh, I'm going to do sales. Oh, okay. You mean you're going to do sales like 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week? No. Okay. Well, then you're not doing the sales. Someone physically has to be selling and thinking about selling. Now we've got amazing mechanisms to make the phone ring through lead gen, but that doesn't matter. That's marketing. You need sales.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because like, it's such a, chicken and the egg. Like people will be like, oh, I'll hire a salesperson when sales come in. It's like, well, the salesperson is going to make sales come in.
Yeah.
So you should hire them first.
Yeah.
And sorry to go on a rant here, but like something I will say to anyone listening, and hopefully this is part of a reel that we promote a lot, which is instead of spending so much money on franchise fees, which is great. If you want to buy multiple territories, that's great.
Yeah.
But you need to think about, like I've seen so many people, they look at a franchise fee, like, hey, I want to buy more territory, right? And they're like, it's like buying land or buying real estate. And they see it as an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And they part with that money pretty easily. But then when it comes to investing in their business, they don't see it as an investment. They see it as a capital expense.
Yes.
And instead you have to say, instead of spending $40,000 on another franchise fee, why don't you take that money and spend all of it on making the phone ring and on a salesperson and that's my biggest takeaway in my time in franchising is trying to educate people that investing in people and leads and marketing is an infinitely better investment than territory. Now, if you want to buy more territory, great. If you can do both, but if I had to choose, I would rather go deep in my market than expand out and not go deep.
Right. Especially if you don't have that team. It's like building that strong foundation first. I always say that with anybody I work with is, especially on onboarding, is I always say, you guys got to build that strong foundation and that's your team. Making sure you have a really good team like you can depend on that where you'll succeed. Like you said, then maybe once that succeeds, then maybe go on to the next territory and see how that goes. But I like that you mentioned that sales is a big thing. That I think that's what he had. I think that he had an aha moment. He realized like, I invested all this money into this. Why would I focus on a job that's just security net? It's just a matter of safety feel rather than it is actually like, like you said, like, it's not like he can just be flexible or whatever. And I think he had that aha moment where he's like, I need to be a part of this, but then I also got to make sure I hire that sales. And he was really excited about that. And I think that's key. I think a lot of the franchise owners could really use that advice, is investing.
I agree.
In the team.
One of the things you can use that's spot on, and that was definitely his aha moment. I think you can use this. Like I use this thing. If you ever, like, I think it was Charles Dickens that came up with this called the Dickens process.
Oh wow!
And I'm going to get
Look
deep
at
again.
You.
This Zoa energy drink makes me.
It's like you're on fire right now. Charles Dickens.
Yeah,
okay.
The Dickens process, and so the Dickens process is basically, we're going to do it. We're going to do it right now.
Okay.
All right. So I want you to close your eyes.
Oh God.
Close your eyes. And I want you to picture you're 80 years old. You're on a rocking chair. You're in a beach house that you've accumulated. You have this beautiful beach house. Your spouse is out, in the yard. You've got grandkids. You got a beautiful family, whatever your dream of life is. And I want you to picture that life having right now at this moment in your whatever age, and for you, your early 20s.
Thank you.
I want you to picture that, you're sitting in that rocking chair and you didn't jump into that moment of your life where you could make that leap. You did not do that. And you're sitting in your rocking chair and you're looking back and you have regret. And then you can think about it again. You close your eyes, you're sitting in that rocking chair. You've got this beautiful family. You've got everything you could ever want. And 40 years prior, whatever amount of years prior, 30 years, 50 years prior, you took the leap. And how do you feel about that? And no one has ever said, I took that leap that time. I regret it. They don't regret it. And it's so much about just letting go of the vine and making that jump. But then the other thing you got to think about is what's the worst that's going to happen? So let's think about the worst that happens. You buy a franchise, you put money into it, you're not succeeding, you're losing money. Are you going to go homeless? Are you going to lose everything? Probably not, right? You can sell the business. You can recoup some of your investment. You can, there's definitely scenarios. I'm not saying you'd come out fully whole, and you could lose lots of money, but is it the end of your life? Yeah. And then more importantly, feel that, right? Feel failure, and then think about like, all right, well, what's the percentage of that happening? Right? What's the percentage? Like, because we all feel the way. I feel the way sometimes. You know that deep, deep down, I have a fear of being like homeless. Like,
wow.
Think about all the business I'm doing, the skills I have, the amount of, I make good, money. And I still deep, deep down, which we all do, have this fear that like the worst of the worst case, I'm going to be homeless. Like you could take away everything from me right now. Give me the team, give me a few of the teammates and 3 years and I'll be back.
Yeah.
And like, what's the word? And by the way, now granted, when you have a family of kids, like it is a little bit more challenging, but like some of the best times I've ever had, I didn't have any money. But like when you really face the fear and think about the worst of the worst case and you put yourself there and you think about it, and then you're like, all right, like what would happen in that case, which probably isn't even as bad as you think it is. Then you think to yourself, what's the probability? If I buy a franchise where they help me lead gen, I have a great brand, they have the marketing, they have the way to find employees. They have a call center. They have bookkeeping. They have support. It's in the restoration space, which is notoriously strong, high average unit volume and revenues and profits. What are the chances like of you drastically failing? Drastically. It's pretty low.
Yeah, it's very low, actually. Yeah.
And so like that's an exercise I love to see people do because most times we're afraid of something that's not even going to happen.
That's 100%. It's like that self-sabotage they do. I forgot the saying for that, where it holds you back because it's all in your head. You're the one that's you're like your own worst enemy in a way, where you get this idea in your head. And a lot of it just all ties back to when you were a kid and how you were treated and all that kind of crap, the trauma that you've dealt with, and you're just never really faced it. So those fears come from that. But yeah, like I like to think that as over the years that you have to start living the life to the fullest because you only get one shot.
Goes fast.
It does. Yeah.
Well, this was awesome. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Well, thanks again for joining. And if you're listening, please like, subscribe, and keep listening. We love giving you content every week or so. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
You're f***ing fired.
If you want to say those words to your boss, make sure you head on over to ifiredmybosspodcast.com and fill out the form to schedule a no-cost consultation. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might also want to fire their boss.